Hello, Your Excellency. My name is Hyung Park. It's an honor to meet you. I wonder what criteria or values are most important in solving diplomatic problems.
So what criteria or values are most important in solving diplomatic problems? I think to some extent we're in the same territory as we were a few answers ago, in that it's really important to understand the other side, if you like. But of course diplomacy is not always about just two sides. I have a lot of experience in working in so-called multilateral diplomacy. When I worked as the British ambassador in Vienna, actually most of my work was not a bilateral, so it's not just one country to another country. So some of my work was bilateral with Austria, obviously Vienna being the capital of Austria, but most of my work was actually multilateral diplomacy, working in various of the international organizations based in Vienna. So for example, a great deal of my work was tied up with the International Atomic Energy Agency, and that is an institution. So again, by concrete example, the International Atomic Energy Agency has a governing body, a governing board, with 35 members. So 35 countries are represented on that governing board. About 160 countries, I think, are actually members of the agency, but only 35 of them are sitting on the board at any one time. And so that is a particularly challenging situation when your diplomatic role is to find a decision that those 35 people can, if possible, agree on. And so in that situation, it's really important to understand what is it about the thinking of other countries. What do they want out of this issue? To give a very concrete example, a lot of my work at the International Atomic Energy Agency was to try to put together some sort of effective approach which would encourage Iran to stop its program of developing nuclear weapons. Some of you will be familiar with something called the JCPOA, which it has been very much in the news in the last year or so. The JCPOA is the Joint and Comprehensive Plan of Action with Iran, which was agreed as a mechanism, as I say, to persuade Iran to stop developing nuclear weapons. It was something in which the British government put a great deal of effort alongside the European Union, Germany, France, Russia, China, and Russia, China, European Union, Germany, France, and the UK. And as a result of that effort, we reached an agreement which actually brought a lot of transparency about this program and effectively brought the nuclear weapons development program in Iran to a stop. Just recently, comparatively recently, the United States government made the decision to withdraw from this agreement, and this has caused us quite a considerable problem. But thinking of the way in which we negotiated that agreement, my participation as a representative of the UK meant I had to think about 6 different partners almost at the same time. And it was very rare that all of those partners would agree on something on the same day. So you constantly have to be thinking, what is it? How is it that I can persuade, let's say, my Russian counterpart to say, look, I think we ought to do this today? And how is it that I can explain it from the point of view that my Russian counterpart will say, yep, that's a good idea. We understand that will be beneficial for us. Or my Chinese counterpart. Now, obviously, in this negotiation, the most difficult partners were the representatives of Iran, because Iran was very resistant to cooperating fully with the International Atomic Energy Agency. They did not want the agency's inspectors coming into Iran. They did not want to sort of declare their whole nuclear weapons program to the International Atomic Energy Agency, and they were the most difficult of the partners to persuade. But even with them, of course, the secret was in looking at it from their point of view and just asking myself from time to time, now, if I was representing Iran, what would convince me to move on? What would convince me to actually agree with the propositions that were put in front of me? So I think this ability to think yourself into the other person's shoes and to say, what is going to make them excited about this suggestion? What is going to make them think, actually, this is probably the best thing to do? I think that's the key moment, and that's the key principle, probably the most indispensable element of effective diplomacy.